Folks, I saw something pretty interesting on Twitter where essentially a streamer was getting a little bit of heat because in Rocket League, he did not obey Rule 1. Rule 1 is kind of a community rule. It's an unwritten rule of the game where if you're clashing head-to-head with someone, as he is at the beginning of this clip, you're supposed to just lock in and keep accelerating at each other and let whatever else is happening in the match happen. But no, this streamer pulled away and tried to score, and some people see this as a breach of the community code. It might not be a super serious rule, but it is kind of a for fun, unwritten rule of the game that many people actually follow. So this got me thinking, are there any fighting game unwritten rules like this that people actually follow? So I've come up with a list. None of these are like super serious, like you're not going to get banned or anything for not following these rules, but I would say some of these, depending on the context, people will pay attention and be like, wait, does this guy, is he not a big fighting game guy? Does he not know about the way that we usually do things? That's my impression. So let's start out here. So the first one is going to be when you're playing a match and you get the dub, like I do right here. Ignore the fact that this is a my mirror match. You get the dub, and then this very important screen comes up here where you got to pick what you're going to do, okay? I would say that the first common courtesy rule here is do not one and done. That's what we call it. Actually, rematch, play a 2 out of 3 set. Listen, sometimes I know you got a frozen pizza on fire in the oven or whatever. You got stuff going on and you have to walk away. But if you are actually able to actually play a little set here, I think it's just a nice thing to do, okay? The reasons why this has kind of become an unwritten rule. Number one, fighting games are not that popular of a genre. You know, SF6 is huge, but for a lot of fighting games, you might be waiting a little while to actually get into an online match and, you know, find someone of a similar skill and ranked. So it's not very fun when you're waiting like 2-3 minutes to get a match and then you play one game and then the guy just quits on you, right? So people want to maximize the amount of fun they're having for the time they're spending in matchmaking. And the number two reason is, you know, like what's the goal of playing fighting games, right? It's to win, for sure. Like the goal is to win the match. But there's kind of like a second secret goal that a lot of fighting game people come into the match with, which is, you know, to learn, to improve, to get better, so that you can have more fun later as you develop your skills. And most people feel that you just learn a lot more when you play a set versus just playing one and done. And like in a tournament context, tournaments are usually going to be 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5 sets. And you might be able to like figure out some tactics that can scrub you out round one, you know, like being really random. You might be able to win one game like that, but then the opponent might download you and you'll never be able to beat them again. So for people who actually want to improve and get better, people like to play sets. And, you know, most games don't like force you to play 2 out of 3 in ranked or anything, but it is just kind of a nice thing to do. So I would recommend, if you're a fighting game player, don't one and done. Another thing I would kind of consider common courtesy, you know, you're playing a match, you're having a good time, everything's going fine. And then all of a sudden you kind of start to see the slowdown kick in. You see the choppiness going crazy. And one of the reasons why this might happen is if the opponent is playing on Wi-Fi. So yes, Wi-Fi these days doesn't really have a problem with speed. Wi-Fi can be extremely fast, but some of the problem can come in with stability, things like packet loss, you know, inconsistent connections. Those types of problems can be caused if you're playing on Wi-Fi. So generally in fighting games, people heavily encourage playing via an Ethernet cord. So I would say it's an unwritten rule to play with an Ethernet cord plugged into your router and not via Wi-Fi. Again, I know this isn't possible for everyone. Sometimes you have a situation where the Wi-Fi router is in your parents' bedroom 10,000 meters away. You can't run an Ethernet cord. I understand. But if at all possible, play on an Ethernet cord. It is considered common courtesy. And now actually a lot of games will even have a little indicator. You know, it'll have like the bars to indicate that this is Wi-Fi. You know, it'll be a different icon to let you know whether they're playing on Wi-Fi or on wired. And a lot of people will actually avoid Wi-Fi players if they have a wired connection. They don't want to fight if the match will be laggy because the opponent has Wi-Fi. So, you know, just to improve the chances of you and your opponent not wasting your time on a match that's going to be laggy, actually, you know, enjoying yourselves and having a good connection, I would highly recommend playing on an Ethernet cable. You know, sometimes this is just a fact of life that sometimes things are going to get a little laggy. If you're playing a match and all of a sudden it starts freezing and slowing down and all kinds of crazy stuff, I think another unspoken common courtesy rule, a lot of people do this, I do this myself, is people will just back up and just let things settle down a little bit before continuing the fight. You know, some people go back and like spam buttons. Some people like teabag, wait for the lag to end, jump around, whatever. I think that's just a good rule of thumb. If there is like a major lag spike that is affecting both players, just stand back and wait for it to cool down, and then you can get back into the fight. And for me, I also do this if the opponent's controller disconnects. You know, if they go AFK suddenly or whatever, I just give them a few seconds. Like, yeah, if it's ranked, you know, I'm not going to blame you too much if you go in and you say, forget it, I'm getting my points. But, yeah, I mean, personally, I will stand back and give the opponent just a second to come back before I just, you know, completely destroy them. So I think those are just kind of nice things to do. Again, it's not like a super strict expectation, but it's something I do, and it's something I would want my opponent to do. If they were up against me, is, you know, wait for the lag spike to resolve, wait for the opponent to get their controller reconnected if the batteries run out or whatever. I just think it's kind of a nice thing to do. But the next category, these are not so much common courtesy as they are more like context dependent. I would say these next set of rules are things that, depending on the context, it will be expected that you follow this, but, you know, in some circumstances, it's totally not something to worry about. All right, so next rule, again, imagine, you know, you're in a match. I would say it's a little bit annoying if you win and you're brought to the rematch screen and you go to select character, you change your character, let's try someone else, you play again, you win again, you know, you go back to the rematch screen again. Let's change characters again, guys. Okay, so if you don't see where I'm going with this, I would say switching on win is kind of a pet peeve for a lot of people. It is something that, depending on the context, can be considered a little rude in fighting games. So obviously in tournaments, you're not allowed to switch on win. You know, only the loser may switch characters in tournaments. But in offline, you know, again, I would say it depends on the context. If you're playing with your buddies, you know, who really cares, right? We're just having fun. But if you're playing it, let's say, a sweatier context, you know, like if it's casuals before a tournament, or if it's like, you know, you're playing like serious sets online where it seems like both of you are trying really hard, I think a lot of people find it a little bit annoying when the opponent wins and then they go to switch characters. And again, like, we are kind of playing with this secondary expectation that one of the purposes of even playing these games is to try to improve and to get better. And if I'm losing to a character, you know, I want to learn that matchup. I want to figure out, you know, how do I beat E-Honda? I keep losing to this guy's Honda, so I want him to rematch me with Honda so I can actually learn the matchup and be able to fight it better in the future. And if the opponent's just switching around all over the place, it gets very annoying. And sometimes it also kind of gives the impression of like, oh, it's boring beating you, so I have to keep switching around to like entertain myself, which I think, you know, sometimes you can kind of make people feel that way if you're switching on wins. So again, it's a free country. You can do whatever you want. This is not a hard and fast rule, but in specific contexts where both players are actually trying and they want to improve, I would say it's a little bit rude to be switching all the time when you win. And another one here, I would say if you are winning a match, you know, the opponent is down to just a little bit, any hit basically is going to kill, and you get the hit and you go straight into level 3 and just make them watch the cutscene. So yeah, I would say unnecessary cutscene, a lot of people find just a little bit rude. Yeah, if it's like the last game of a set or whatever, I think it's probably fine. But if you're just doing this, like, you know, just to kind of rub it in when you get a win, just to make them wait and make it take longer to get to the next match, yeah, a lot of people are annoyed by this. So I would say, again, this is not like a super serious rule, but I personally find it a little bit annoying when, you know, I'll die to literally any hit. It's guaranteed. The opponent can do anything to kill me, and they decide to make me watch the longest cutscene that they have. So, yeah, I would say that's the next one. Try to avoid putting the opponent in the unnecessary cutscene. And, you know, I said this set of rules is very context dependent, and this one is very region dependent. I've never really heard people complain about this in America, but apparently in Japan, it is quite taboo if you kill the opponent and then you hit him with the post-round hit. This is something that is apparently strongly disliked in Japan in particular, to the point where they've removed it from games because people got annoyed so much by it. Same thing with post-match taunts, by the way. You get the kill and then you go for the taunt. Yeah, that is just the disrespect is off the charts. And in Tekken as well, you know, you get the kill and then you do the classic post-match key charge. Yeah, this has never really bothered me, but some people will go absolutely feral if you do this to them. To the point where they actually added an option. Here in player customization, you can turn on what's called the magic mirror. If you have this option on, the opponent will not be able to do anything post-round against you. I think on their screen they can still do it, but you'll just never know. You'll never see it on your screen here. Yeah, here it is. It will limit character movement after a battle's winner is decided. It will not affect what your opponent or match spectators see. So, yeah, on their side, they can hit you with the post-match hits, post-match key charge, but yeah, you'll never see it. So if this does annoy you, at least there's an option for it. But yeah, this has never really bugged me, but apparently it bugs a lot of people. So if you just want to have like an agreeable, nice experience, maybe don't hit people too much after the round ends. All right, the final category of unwritten rules here. This is just silly stuff. No one actually takes this that seriously, but it's something that does happen from time to time, and you might be able to have a fun little moment if you participate in these rules. One of them is if you're playing a game that has clashing, where attacks can, you know, clash into each other instead of trading. If you and your opponent get in a clash battle, just let it rip. Just keep it going as long as possible. It's kind of similar to the Rocket League thing. You know, you're like locked in against each other. Just keep driving. You know, don't try to steal it by like going for a low or whatever. No. You just got to stay locked in and clash for as long as you can, just to see how long you can do it. So yeah, just for fun, I have noticed that people tend to do this a lot. Another one is if you're in a mirror match, a lot of people like to taunt each other at round start. I mean, with some characters like El Fuerte, people just go crazy and have all kinds of bizarre rituals that they do during the mirror match. But yeah, I think a round start taunt is pretty fair, especially if you play like an obscure character. A lot of people like doing this just as kind of a fun, like, hey, what's up? I see you, bro. You also play my character type of move. By the way, shout outs to Fidel for posting this amazing video. Yeah, El Fuerte players are truly a different breed. And the final one I wanted to talk about today, this is just for fun again, but skipping the intro. You gotta let the intro rock one time at least. I've noticed in SF6, you know, everyone used to make fun of that opening, you know, the the walkout thing. People used to make fun of this, but now people like it. They get mad if you don't let the intro rock. See, look, they're all happy here at the tournament because they actually let the intro rock. Way to go. And the most famous one, of course, was Dragon Ball FighterZ, man. People went nuts for these intros. They're screaming along with Cell. These are unskippable. For the first match, at least, the first game of the set in the tournament, you gotta let the intro cutscenes rock. So, yeah, that's the final one here. I guess we could say dramatic finishes as well. Don't skip the dramatic finishes. Let the cutscenes rock one time at least, and people really enjoy it. So that was my list of the unwritten rules of the FGC. What do you guys think? Again, these aren't super serious. Don't get mad at me. Be like, hey, you know, I'm never doing this. I want it done if I want to. That's fine. These are just kind of little things that some people pay attention to, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.